Hi, Jay. Welcome to the Birchal Podcast. It's so great to have you. Just as a way of a little bit of an introduction, Jay Curtin leads Australian Honey Ventures, which is a company focused on aggregating high-quality Australian honey for domestic and export markets, emphasising medicinal and therapeutic qualities. Jay also has co-founded Got Cakey, a digital marketplace connecting consumers with bakers and simplifying the cake ordering process. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Emily. It's great to be in Melbourne, and it's an honour to be in here with you today to talk about all things capital raising.
Well, honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like you're capital raising royalty. You've been through the Birchal process with Australian Honey Ventures. Is it 4 times now?
4.
And now your second raise with Got Cakey. It's pretty huge. What keeps you coming back?
Look, when I first started raising capital and I was discovered by Alan, he reached out to me and said, had you considered capital raising through the Birchal platform? And at that time, I think it was about 3 years ago now, I had never even heard of it, didn't know it was an option. I know a lot now to know that it was relatively new 3 to 4 years ago when I started raising capital. So the reason we continue to come back is we know the system, we know how Birchal works, and with both companies we have a consumer-facing product. So if we can raise capital as well as get some deep penetration and brand awareness, then that's a win-win for us. It means our customer acquisition cost is, negative because we're raising capital and we're acquiring our first lot of customers as well. So that's the biggest tick for us, especially with Got Cakey being a digital marketplace connecting buyers and sellers. It's been very successful getting that user base to come on board.
Actually, so you mentioned the customer acquisition part of it, and I think that that's a really big draw card for a lot of consumer-based businesses. How has that affected you in terms of getting new customers on board at the same time as getting pretty much brand ambassadors on board when they become shareholders in the company?
Look, it's gone really well for us, and I actually remember a time, it was our second last raise with Real Good Honey, which is Australian Honey Ventures, and we had just launched, we'd pivoted from honey as a functional food to honey that goes into embarrassing and intimate areas, and we lifted the lid on what we were working on through our raise, and it was legitimately a probably 30-second throwaway at the end of the video what we were planning to do with the honey. And, in comparison to other years that we have raised, I was like, what is going on with this raise? It's not going very good. But the funny thing that happened was we weren't a retail company. We were a wholesale company selling large lots to pharmacies offshore. What started to happen was our phone, because we have a Shopify store, started going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And it was actually a depressing time for me thinking we have to raise capital, but yet we're getting new customers, but they're not investing. So that was a really interesting concept for us, because when we advertise a raise, we get investment. But this particular investment, this round, we just had a lot of customers. So we went from having 1 or 2 orders every 2 to 3 weeks, because we aren't retail, to having about 150 orders just come in over a weekend. It was just incredible what happened once people knew that we existed and what we're working on. But it also, the real important thing here, takeaway, was product market fit. Now, we thought we had a product market fit, and we did initially, but it wasn't a sustainable product market fit. So with the honey, we knew that there was a market offshore where people valued honey a lot more than the Australian market did. So the Australian market, it was unheard of to see an Australian person want to spend $99 on a jar of honey. But offshore, they're more inclined to do so. But what we found is that when we pivoted, and through this the second last raise with Real Good Honey, once we pivoted that product market fit and we said you actually put it on your skin, you put it, into these areas to fix these embarrassing issues, Australians became our biggest customer base. So they wouldn't just buy 1 jar at $99, they'd buy 2 or 3.
Yeah, wow.
So it was so weird to think that we'd found a product market fit previously, which was sitting alongside Manuka on the shelf and people eating a teaspoon a day, to then finding our worst performing user base being Australians who didn't give a crap about the honey, now we're our biggest customer base. So, yeah, it was incredible. But that all happened through this raise, because anybody looking to do a raise on Birchal go into it not understanding the costs that are associated in it. And I think the cost to Birchal to pay for this platform is really insignificant to the value that you get out of it. But what we do have to put into it is a lot in digital spend for advertising. So getting your video out there, getting ads pumping, getting PR, all of these things that are a cost. I mean, look, I think we allow 30,000 plus to do something. So it's, you know, you would like to think that if you've got good marketing material doing this raise, if you're putting $30,000 into your paid media, you're going to get some kind of result. So it's a bit of a win-win. If you can get capital as well as get brand awareness and, you know, increase sales, you're pretty much locking yourself in for a successful raise next time, because you can then go to your next raise and demonstrate customer growth, customer acquisition costs are down, you know, revenue is up and so forth. So it just sort of keeps feeding in.
Yeah, it's almost cyclical in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually something that's hard to kind of articulate to somebody coming into a capital raise, because it can be really confronting to see the upfront costs of how much it's going to cost you to do a capital raise and to get all of your collateral and invest into that digital advertising. But to see that return come through is really rewarding, I think. And we see it quite often for our clients that they'll say, oh my gosh, our products are flying off the shelves. We can't even keep up with this demand now. I'm like, okay, it's great. Just wait until the money comes through after your settlement and then you can fulfill these orders. But it's fantastic to see that you've got that double-edged sword there. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it is important. And I suppose anyone looking to raise capital, if you are an aggressive founder, I don't mean physically, but you go hard and you don't give up, you'll find that money somewhere. But I mean, look, the opposing argument to raising capital is, why do you not go and raise money through VCs or family offices or sophisticated investors? So Birchal make it, and I think it's any of the crowdfunding platforms really, just make it so easy for startups to be able to access capital when they're at either a pre-product, pre-revenue stage, or they're very early revenue, and they're not at that stage where the larger VCs are hanging out. They're not, you know, that's not their appetite in terms of their funds. So it is good in that respect. And also it's just so difficult for startups to find all of the VCs and, you know, angel investors out there who have appetites for different verticals. So by going to Birchal, it gives you that early money. You know, it is convenient. It, in my opinion, it is well priced. But, you know, we, like with our Got Cakey company, we're also looking at what road showing on the East Coast. So I think if you're looking to raise through Birchal, countering the fact that you're going to have, you know, like for me with our companies, we're generally spending anywhere from $700 to $900 a day on ad spend, and a typical campaign runs for 5.5 weeks. So you do the maths there, that's considerable money. But if we're not spending that, we're going to be spending that on plane flights, holiday accommodation, going out for dinners, wooing, doing the dance with all investors, because we'll be road showing for 2 weeks. So it's horses for courses, and, you know, there's pros and cons both ways.
I think you make such a good point, and obviously you can stay where your business is located. You can keep working on your business at the same time if you're doing it through an equity crowdfunding platform versus going to meet these potential investors in person, trying to woo them, playing this game. It's really different. Something though, we actually often use your campaigns as a case study into...
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, there's a reason you've come back 6 times, because you've got this secret sauce. So something that you often take advantage of during your campaigns is using an ambassador to sprig the product, sprig the company, and talk about the raise. Can you give me a little bit of an overview of why you think that is such an effective tool?
Yeah, look, I had somebody say something to me the other day. So we're mid-raise at the moment with Got Cakey. We had a baker come forward and, you know, really trying to understand where the value of the platform was. And she came up with a big pile of rubbish, to be honest, around, I just think things are better the way that they currently are. People can just find us on Instagram. They can find us on Facebook. And I'm like, she just completely overlooked the fact that life is changing and it is not vendors anymore setting the trends. And for people that continue to get stuck in their own way and, because ultimately founders and managers are sometimes their own worst enemy. They think that they know better and they keep doing things the way that they've been doing things their whole life, refusing to accept that there is change out there. So I look at this and I go, right, as a consumer, I find X frustrating. So, for me, it's about looking at, well, where is the consumer base going? What technology is out there? And making sure that you build a solution that is considerate of those trends. Getting back to the ambassador. So the ambassador is the exact same concept, right? We are living in a consumer-driven market. Mm-hmm. You only have to look at McDonald's and their menu changes. It is driven by what consumers are wanting and demanding. Now, consumers are hanging out on social media. It's where they're spending a lot of their time. People take their phones to the toilet. You walk into a house and every single person in that household is on a device. So by completely disregarding, either through lack of knowledge or refusing to want to believe, the world is very socially connected. And social media influencers, UGC creators, is driving retail decisions left, right and centre. So it, to me, is just a no-brainer because I recognise that it is the consumer side of the world driving change and pushing large corporates and startups to change and evolve and innovate. Because I suppose I understand that. I was very, very early on recognised that we're going to get deep penetration, we're going to make our dollar go further if we turn to some of these influencers and ambassadors to help get our word out there. So a lot of people will look at it and go, we can't afford that. Like, we don't want to go and spend $50,000 to work with this person for the next 3 months. But I'm the opposite. I'll look at it and go, right, we're here now, we need to get to this point, we need to do it as quick as we possibly can, as cheap as we possibly can. Who's got the biggest megaphone out there? Where is my ideal user base and which influencers are actually talking to that user base now? So that's always, it's the first thing that we do is we look to where that synergy is and then we source.
I think it's really smart, and equally what you're talking about in terms of the consumer decision, I think as well what's going to dictate your products in the future is what the consumers of your products want going forward. That being said, obviously you've got a whole heap of shareholders on board now. What kind of decision making are you kind of leaning towards now that you've got all of these shareholders and potential inspirers for your products? Do you look to them now to see what you want to be evolving the company to?
So funny. You just reminded me about a billboard I saw here in Melbourne. And I can't remember what fund it was, but it was an insurance fund. And it said, we let our members create content too. And I had to laugh because they're clearly understanding that in order to create a sticky user base, so to avoid churn, avoid drop-off, they need to engage, entertain and absolutely delight their user base. So why not better, bring them on as ambassadors, involve them, because then their heart rests with you. So I thought that was really quite smart. They're up and coming and I can see that their brand awareness is growing more and more. But with my user base, so if we're looking at Got Cakey, for example, we have around 700 shareholders on board, and that's soon to hopefully be, tip over the 1,000 when we finish this raise. We have our shareholders bending over backwards. They want to be involved. They are regularly reaching out saying, Jay, where is your marketing pack? What can we do? We want to go and talk to this person. We want to hang out on these free platforms, and I had someone message last night and say, I was having cake and coffee with my girlfriend at Ferguson Players here in Victoria somewhere. And I heard in the time she was having her coffee, she heard 4 quotes for orders for custom cakes coming in. And she said, all I wanted to do was jump up and say, no, use Got Cakey instead. So we do have these ambassadors. Luckily for me with Got Cakey, it's such an exciting investment opportunity. Everyone is just really pinging with it. Everyone wants to help. But it's actually me that's not organised. We've got so many things happening. We're soft launch. We're trying to iron out some more kinks. We're trying to be innovative. And it's kind of like I've got to push my shareholders away and say, I totally agree with you, but I just need a little bit more time and I'll put together an amazing pack. But seriously, they are literally like a horse going to cross country, and you put him in the box and he's ready to go, and as soon as they say go, he's out of that box. And that's what, a gymkhana, that is what my shareholder base is reminding me of right now. They're toey and they want to go. But how did I get them toey? How did I get them ready to go? And it's about stakeholder communications from day one. So that's one thing that I'm really big at. And here I now have 2 companies, and it's getting to the point it's becoming hard for me to manage. So I have, I always start like a private group for our investors and friends of investors and anybody that may be sitting on the fence, whether they do want to invest or not. So they've got a direct line to me at any time. So, it's not too many companies out there where you've got a direct line to ask a CEO a question. So we have, nearly 1,000 people in each of these groups for both companies. So, taking them on that journey with us is really important. The other thing, what I am finding, like raising capital is getting tougher and tougher. And, like back when we did a $2 million raise with Real Good Honey, in reflection, that just seems so easy compared to how it is now. It's really, really hard because people are not opening their wallet as freely anymore because cost of living is huge. People are getting redundancies. Interest rates are going up. The cost of living for children and sport is through the roof. So people are far more conservative now when they invest. And one of the things that I, as a startup and as a founder, our number one job is to ensure that the company is always has always got an ample runway so we can kick our goals and do what we need to do. Now, I've got a primed audience there with both companies. It's just about finding the time. But the next step would be dealing with retail investors who don't, invest large amounts of money. They're not aware of the dynamics of startups and how long, 4 to 5 years that startups are going to need money before they're comfortably profitable to be able to look after themselves. So one of the things that I would love to be doing if I could find the time would be really working with our shareholder base to help them understand, look, your investment in a company now is very, very helpful, but ensuring so far as reasonable and practicable, you're able to follow on in future rounds to help that company keep kicking its goals is really, really important. So if we're dealing with a big strategic, I'm talking millions of dollars here, which is, the next stage for Got Cakey, is, when we have those discussions, it's about, okay, how big is this a VC or strategic investors fund? Okay, they might have a $100 million fund. How much are they prepared to allocate to this venture? We may have a life cycle of 3 years with this particular investor. They might say, look, we've got 10 mil that we're happy to allocate to this investment over the next 3 years, but we're going to put in 2 million now, and if you hit this target, then we'll follow on with this amount and so forth. So it would be so good that here I have both audiences with both companies. If I could start educating that audience, and I suppose there's an element of this for Birchal as well, is trying to educate these really curious and engaged stakeholders that are wanting to invest. How do we educate them to say, hey, I know you put $500 in last time. We're here again 12 months later. We've kicked all these goals. Follow through and do another 500. Because it's not that we haven't been successful. We have been successful and we are growing. But until we reach huge economies of scale, we are going to need continued help. We need our hand held. So that's where I think is a huge opportunity for education and to ensure that these startups, that there's some really great startups out there with great ideas, but we need to make sure that they've got the runway to survive.
That's a really good point. And I think it's the missing piece of the puzzle a lot of the time for these startups is the lack of education around early stage startups and the capital that they need to grow. And it doesn't just come out of thin air. It's getting more and more difficult to raise funds through traditional methods. Getting a bank loan simply isn't sustainable for a lot of people in terms of...
Well, you can't even get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's, from my experience, has been particularly difficult for female founders in trying to get funding. Do you find that as a female founder it's more difficult for you? I mean, how can you compare? I guess you've never been a male founder.
Do you know, I've been asked this question so many times and I actually love it. And I probably am going to be quite bold in my answer.
I'd expect nothing less.
In the early years, I was raised, I'm a girl from the bush. I was raised on the smell of an oily rag. We had nothing growing up. We even did school on the air. And I think when you grow up to... you're raised in a family of battlers, low socioeconomic, where you've got nothing to lose but everything to gain. One, that's a very important trait. Somebody that is just so hungry to succeed at any cost. That's the first thing. Look, being a female funder, this is a really interesting question, and I get asked it so often, and I love it. So, look, I come from a low socioeconomic family. We're a family of battlers. And we lived in the middle of nowhere. I'm a girl from the bush, school on the air. And when you're born into a family like that, you kind of live life with the mentality that I have absolutely nothing to lose but everything to gain. And yes, I'm scared of failure. I hate failure, but failure has made me who I am today. So people say, it's so hard for women out there to raise money. My experience has been completely the opposite. I don't find it hard to raise money at all, but I don't know if that's because I've been raised in a masculine environment. I lived and I grew up on a mine site. My mum was the cook, my dad was the superintendent, and me and my little sister, we lived, out in the middle of Meekatharra. So we were always around a very dominating male environment. But, if I'm really honest, I don't even think it's that. For me, it is all about the idea. If you've got a kick-ass idea, money will find you. But if you don't know your subject, your idea is not differentiated enough, or the market isn't big enough for that opportunity, that's going to be very hard for people to want to invest in you. The other thing is you have to be a storyteller. If you can't sell your story, then you're going to struggle to articulate that to somebody who may not be familiar with your vertical. For example, I'm finding it really tough. So even people, this is my 6th raise, and even I still struggle with things. So we've got the cake business, right? It is a frequent, high-use platform, a super sticky user base. That's sexy stuff for a VC or a strategic investor. But I still struggle to articulate the vision to males. And that is because for me, when I have conversations with a man, they just don't get the frustration that exists between bakers and buyers. And I'm like, this is such a good idea. And they're like, oh yeah, and then they start talking about the weather. When you talk to a female about this concept, they are all in. They totally get it. But that is because 98% of people in the family, the people that buy cakes are the wives in the family, the females in the family. So for me, like in that case, yes, it is difficult. I'm finding it more difficult to raise capital, but it's not because I'm female. The reason I'm finding it hard is because the male investor environment is nowhere near as familiar with the fragmentation in the industry that we're working with. So today, we've actually got the co-CEO of Got Cakey, which is my 14-year-old son, Blaze. He's actually in the streets of Melbourne today walking around with cake with his content team, stopping men in the street, asking them if they're married.
Amazing.
Are you married, sir? What is the date of your anniversary? and he's stopping them to ask if they know the date of their anniversary. And obviously there's going to be people that don't know the answer to that question, which makes for great content. But then also saying, would you consider buying your wife, your partner, a cake on Got Cakey? So, this is where, getting back to that female in business, I think females struggle with confidence, struggle to feel that they're worthy. It's not that they don't come up with an idea just as good as a man, but I think we're our own worst enemy at times, because it's like we get imposter syndrome and feel that we don't deserve to be here. Look at you. Sometimes I used to walk into the bathroom at home and I'd pulled a real late night, and I used to have long hair and I'd have a messy bun, and I get stressed and I scratch my face all the time, and I'd look at myself. I'd walk into the bathroom and go, look at you. You don't deserve to be successful. Look, you got a hole in your sock. Look at you wearing your partner's hoodie and your partner's tracksuit pants because they're comfy. You can't go to a meeting and be successful. No one's going to take you seriously. And then the other side of the brain is going, don't say that. You know that how you look is no measure of your potential. Just stop saying that stuff because you're so self-sabotaging. So I look at us women and I think, we do think differently. And men just seem to go in, they walk into the bathroom and go, look at you, you're looking damn fine. So, I think from a confidence point of view, that it can let us down. But yeah, it just all comes back to understanding that women deserve the opportunities as well. Be confident in yourself, but have an absolute ball terror of an idea and get that early validation, and understand straight away where your investors are that are also going to understand that this is a fantastic solution to a huge pain in the butt problem that happens globally. If you can do that, you won't have trouble finding the money. You've got to find where your early money's got to come from. Once that early money is in, if your idea is as good as you say it is, you're going to have the stats. And I've said before to Blaze with Got Cakey, I said, mate, if we can demonstrate a frequent high-use platform, a super sticky user base, an extremely low customer acquisition cost, gross merchandise value increasing month on month, I said, mate, it couldn't care if we're selling dog poo. Someone's going to want a piece of that because it is just showing hunger out there and demand in the world. So just get your idea right.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as a consumer of Got Cakey and Real Good Honey as well, I experienced firsthand how great it was. And we in the office, we ordered a huge cake the other day, and Matt Vitale, our CEO and co-founder, he was thrilled. He couldn't believe how well it was. And for me, I teared up that week in the office. I felt really proud and really excited to see that from the first raise, you were able to execute your plans, you were able to start up the app, and it was usable. I used it to order some cookies for a friend's baby shower on the weekend, and it was so easy and seamless. And it was so amazing to see the baker come, give me the cookies, and she was thrilled to have this avenue where she could get revenue as well. So it's not just, I think, about helping the founder. For you in particular, you're helping a broad range of people. You're helping the honey farmers. You're helping these bakers. So it's not just you as an individual who is, gaining from this business. It's a huge range of people that your businesses touch.
Yeah, it does. And lovely to know you teared up. But it's the same thing happened to us. So we are seeing people use what we have built and what we've been talking about for so long. People are using it now to find products for their special moments. And it's a really different feeling to the honey. We've essentially created something from scratch. I think creating a tech business versus a manufacturing business where we're selling a raw product like honey, which people have eaten honey for centuries, to build a tech business that has been a delightful experience and help people get from A to B. And when you actually go, wow, this might be some things that need a bit of refining, but I've just used that product. I've used this tech and I love it. And when you can actually see in your own mind global product market fit, that there is no reason why this amazing product can't go global, that is like a reality moment. And it's like, wow, guys, we believed it, we've built it, and now we're doing it. So, yeah, it was a real huge moment. Like the other night, sorry, I've got a blocked nose.
All right.
So, like, for example, the other night was Monday. We had to fly to Melbourne to do a content shoot, last-minute content shoot. And our content creator says, oh, you know, do you think you might be able to get a cake? I said, yeah, look, just send me a text with what you think I'm going to need. Mm-hmm. And she came back with about 10 cakes that she wanted, a combination of cakes, cupcakes and cookies. And I said, Terry, we're shooting in 48 hours. Where am I going to find all of those cakes from? Now, how dumb am I? Right? I don't cook, I don't bake. The thought of doing anything creative in the kitchen scares the daylights out of me. And I said, I was a little bit huffy actually, and I said, Terry, where am I going to find that many cakes? And they were real descriptive cakes too. Where am I going to find them in 48 hours? And then I said, actually, lucky that we've created an app that can find it for us. So we put the quote requests on the Got Cakey platform, and they were filled, all of them were filled within 12 hours. And they were all delivered to Bell's Hotel in South Melbourne on Wednesday morning, and they were amazing. So to see these bakers turning up with these goods, hearing them say, thank God you exist now, because now I don't need to worry about my website. Now I don't need to worry about all of my marketing and advertising. You're essentially getting my market for me. Thank you so much. So it's really exciting.
That's beautiful and so rewarding to hear. I wonder if you'd be going down the generative AI route for your cakes. So the reason I say this is when we were considering in the office what kind of cake we wanted.
You couldn't think of it.
We couldn't think of it.
Correct.
So we couldn't picture in our heads what we wanted. We're on Google searching in what kind of cake we're after. And one of the really huge industries that we're working with a lot of clients from at the moment is medicinal cannabis. So one of our tech guys went into ChatGPT and said, could you please create a cake that is weed themed? It came up with this unbelievable picture. We sent it off as a quote request on Got Cakey, and no joke, within a few days, that cake arrived in our office. Exactly what was generated from the image in ChatGPT.
It's amazing you say that. So I am the least tech savvy person. I officially know now that I am in that era I used to put my mum and dad in, that I'm just old. I'm 40. And I just hand my phone to my son now, Blaze, and I'm like, Blaze, do this for me. Blaze, order my Uber Eats for me. Blaze. We were sitting down the other day, so we've shortlisted a CTO for the company.
Huge.
And yeah, it is huge. He's amazing. I mean, when a CTO charges $600 an hour, you know you're talking with a big wig. But don't worry, he did us a deal. So we were talking with him, and Blaze is like, Mum, exactly the same thing that you've raised. People don't know what it is that they're wanting. They're wanting to be inspired, and they're wanting to be given choices. So our process is, I suppose you could look at it and say it's archaic. It's only brand new software, but compared to what is out there on the market, it's very archaic. It says, what's your budget? What do you want? And upload a reference image. But if you don't have a reference image because that particular weed cake has never been developed before, mm-hmm. or you're not creative like me, you're not even going to be able to come up with a picture. So how do we introduce AI so that AI can actually just keep churning out the images? And you go, no, try again. And you go, oh, that could work. That's abstract. I like that. Bang, off it goes. So we are already looking at how we can introduce that AI into Got Cakey, because once again, it comes back to what is being driven by the consumer. The consumers want it. So we're heading to Sunrise on Monday, and we're having to do a 3D cake for Sunrise.
Wow.
And sitting there going back and forward with a baker who we've chosen, it's quite hard. Like, we've got to get that creativity from somewhere. So if we can ensure that our tech is constantly delighting people and taking away the need for them to even worry about thinking, then, you know, we're going to go there.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to see where Got Cakey goes from here. You've already developed everything so quickly and seamlessly, and it's an incredible feat. I wish I had the same number of hours in the day as you, Jay. It's always really, really inspiring to see what you do, and I really hope that everybody who's listening today can take away some of this absolutely invaluable knowledge. I think that you're such an incredible knowledge source for people who are looking to raise capital, and it is so inspirational to see what you do. And honestly, I congratulate you for everything that you've achieved so far. It's an absolute pleasure working with you every time.
Well, it's been great working with the Birchal team. I've been with you now on a few campaigns, and I hope that you're not going to go anywhere. Look, if you're looking to raise capital through the Birchal platform, seriously consider it as a very viable and enjoyable way to raise capital for your startup or your company. Look, yes, I have garnered a lot of knowledge about the system, and, you know, I've had some big ups and some big downs as well through these raises. They don't all go to plan. And if there's anyone that needs any help, I actually have had people through the Birchal campaign reach out, find me on LinkedIn, or, you know, somehow manage to find my number online. It's not actually that hard. They reach out and just for a chat. I'm always here for a chat. I love helping people. So hit me up if I can help anyone out there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jay. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you today.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.